Kitchen Talk. Welcome, Kitchen Talk family. Today is Census 2020, the most important thing that we all need to be thinking about right now, today. We're going to talk about that today. I have a wonderful guest that's going to be on the show. Her name is Patricia Duff Tucker. She is the partnership specialist with the African American Black Regional Los Angeles office. And I'm excited to have her on the show. She's going to talk about why it is important to register for the 2020 census. This only comes every 10 years, everybody. Every 10 years. And in order for us to get what we need for our communities, we have to be counted. Okay. We're going to get into talking about this is a constitutional right. Okay. So we're going to talk about that today. And we're going to show you some videos to explain what this 2020 census is and why is it important. And it only takes a few minutes. I understand it's only 10 questions. So we're going to dig into that this morning on Kitchen Talk. This is an interactive show. So if you're out there, we want you to join in. Give us your questions. If you have questions for Patricia, she'll be more than happy to answer those she can answer. And this is going to be a part 1 series. We're going to be back again on the 24th of September, talking more because the census is ending September 30th, everybody. It was supposed to be October 31st. It's ending September 30th. So we're going to bring Miss Patricia Tucker on, and we're going to talk and see so you guys can understand exactly what is going on with the 2020 census. Hi, how are you?
Hi, Leanne. Thank you for this opportunity.
Hey, it's great to see you. Great to see you.
Great to see you also.
Thank you, first of all, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And this is, we have this every 10 years.
Yes.
And I believe the census has been out over 100 years.
Yes, the first census was in 1790, actually. So It's been a long time. I first want to just say thank you for being a census partner. Partners within the census are crucial, and they are one of the partners like you are one of the main reasons that we're able to reach the communities which are hard to count. And so I just want to make sure that I tell you thank you. We've known each other for years, but this has been a great opportunity. From the beginning of the show, you've been constantly promoting the census, so I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. And we talked about in our conversation, look, in our supposed to be 10-minute conversations go to 2 hours.
Yes.
But we talk about this is our giving back, and this is something that we need to stand tall and do. And, everybody can't do everything, but you pick what you can do and do it.
You can do something.
That's right.
Which is to complete the census right now.
That's right. But again, thank you, Pat, for coming on. We're going to dig in this today. This is a live interactive show. So, once our guests pick up that we're live on Facebook Live and we're live on YouTube. And we would love to get questions because, again, if you don't really understand what the census is all about, most people are not going to register. But in this segment, we're going to show everybody through the videos and through what Ms. Tucker is going to talk about today. I think it's going to open up a lot of eyes for these community, these Medicare, senior citizens, so many things that we will not get if everybody is not counted. So what is the census?
Okay, basically, bottom line, I'll give you a little bit of a history, but not too much, because I think the video that you share with me that you're going to show is really going to answer a lot of questions specifically pertaining to the African American community. But in general, the census is called the decennial census because it happens every 10 years. First census was in 1790. Bottom line, the census is about power and money. Power when it comes to having an accurate count will provide communities accurate representation in Congress. It also reapportions the congressional seats. It also has to do with state districting and legislative boundaries. But the other critical component of the census is the money. Over 675 billion, which is the lower end, is distributed to all of the states based on the census count. So for example, let's say, I live in Pasadena, and if, let's say, I'm just going to use easy numbers for myself. Let's say there's 1,000 people in Pasadena that are actually in Pasadena as of April 1st. But let's say by September 30th, only 500 of those people actually complete the census. That means that Pasadena is only going to get money for those 500 people for the next 10 years. So
Wow.
all of the services and, schools and roads and everything else that should be coming for the 1,000 people, you will only get money for 500 people. So that's the easy and simplistic way to understand how important it is for every single person living in wherever you live to get counted.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Well, we're going to cut the chase.
Yes.
And we're going to show a very good short video provided by the Urban League. And I think that's going to open up a lot of eyes. And perhaps we can get some questions about what's going on with the census. Okay,
sure.
We'll be right back after this.
In the 2010 census, 3.9 million Black people were omitted, left out of the census, not counted. As soon as one census is done and put to bed, the next census actually starts. The planning for it begins immediately. So it's a 10-year process, and it works by way of testing and how should we ask people these questions? What questions need to be clarified? And then bam, the form arrives in your box. This time around, this is the first internet-based census where the entire country gets an opportunity to respond to the census. Each household gets a unique ID that's relative to that specific household. And fill out the form. It's very easy. It's only about 10 questions. And if you don't want to do the internet version, you can call. There's a number you can call, and there are 12 different languages. The census touches every part of our lives, whether we know it or not. You gotta walk on the sidewalks, infrastructure improvements, programs for healthy babies, Pell Grants, National Direct Student Loans, Section 8, all that money that we pay taxes for. This is not free money. So the money follows the count. It doesn't follow the need. So if you don't need to fill out the form, apparently you don't need these services. But there's a political consequence as well. The seats in the House of Representatives are based on the census count. Not only are the seats in the House of Representatives determined by the census count, but also the Electoral College seats. So you know what happened in 2016, that the Electoral College determined who was going to be president. Communities of color in general are increasingly undercounted in the census. And so we have 700,000 men and women who return to our communities each year who were formerly incarcerated. They can change the course of the political spectrum by participating in the census. African American men of every age group from 18 to 50 are undercounted in significant numbers. Most importantly, 7 out of 10 Black children were not counted in the last census. Over $1 trillion are allocated to communities across the country based on the census count. That's a lot of money for breakfast programs and Head Start. So that's a critical issue. The Census Bureau has a policy of residence criteria, and they count incarcerated persons not in their home community. They count them in the location of the prisons where they have been locked up in. It's unfortunate because those are dollars that go to communities in rural, conservative, typically white populations. And it's basically nothing but prison-based gerrymandering. You know, people are aware of the power of the numbers, and they also are aware that this country, with every tick of the clock, is becoming browner and browner. So there's this death grip on the status quo and the whiteness of America that is fading and disappearing with every tick of the clock. So you asked me about what is April 1. It's a reference point. It's just a national rallying reminder. You can go online and fill out your form until August 14th. So if you wait till August 14th, you'll probably have had several visits by a census enumerator. For coronavirus notwithstanding, you probably will have a knock on the door asking if they can help you.
Okay, Pat. So that was pretty informative. It was deep, and you know.
Yeah, I want to touch on a couple of points too. Also, one in particular, when she was talking about children, that is an absolute fact. Children are very much undercounted, and also the reference point of April 1st. So bottom line is, if a person was alive as of 11:59.59 seconds on April 1st, and in the United States, they need to be counted. That's the bottom line.
April 1st. April 1st.
Wherever you were on April 1st, that's where you should have submitted your census form. But one of the other things also, just kind of going over the timeline, because in this video, you know, it's done earlier, so she mentions August. So right now it's actually September 30th. So there's a number that is scrolling along the bottom of the screen, which is the 626-314-8635 number. That is a local number for the San Gabriel Valley. So that means you don't even have to contact the national number to actually self-respond. You can contact the census office at that local number so that you can self-respond much easier. The other thing she was talking about was when she said the number of African Americans that were omitted. The thing about the census, which is so wonderful for me as an African American, is that everybody has an equal chance to complete it. That's the bottom line. Every single person. So whether you call locally, whether you call nationally, you could also go online on your cell phone. You also can respond through the mail. Actually, the census is distributing a final questionnaire, which is the first time in history that they're actually doing another questionnaire. And this was all due to COVID, because during COVID, you know, we didn't have enumerators go out. We didn't have any of that. Enumerators are going out now and have been going out for the last couple of weeks. And so, you know, if you don't want them to come to your door, please complete the census. In addition, she was talking about the services. That is critical. These services, such as medical and hospitals and clinics.
Expound a little bit about the medical, because like I said, I think people are just getting just the topics.
Okay, so I'm going to go over some of the areas first, and I'm going to bring my form here just so that I can make sure that I really tell you everything. So in regards to the census, this is why the data is important. So remember, I told you about the number of people, you know, and I'm just using Pasadena as a reference point, you know, to that. So if you're talking about schools, you're talking about school lunches. So if we don't count our children, let's say that was just born, let's say in April, within the next 10 years, that child is going to be going to school. So if they're not if there is not enough money, let's say that has been allocated for the school lunch or for the schools or for the daycares, even small businesses, then we won't have the funds necessary to carry out those necessary services. So I'm going to give you some numbers here. So this is for the state of California. So in 2015, and we're talking about the federal funds that California received from the federal government. So for Medi-Cal assistance, 311 billion in California, because it's one of the largest states, receives a larger proportion of funding, electoral seats, everything. So Medi-Cal assistance, 311 billion, 805,244,000. Supplemental assistance, nutritional assistance program. So Medi-Cal is the number one back in, again, 2015, for those 10 years between 2010 to now 2020, Medi-Cal assistance was the number one source of funding that California received based on its population count. LA County has always been undercounted. For some reason, we do not respond to the census. So this number could have probably been much higher and provided much more resources. Mental assistance program, which was 71 billion. You have Medicare Part B, 70 billion. You have highways and constructions, 38. Federal Pell Grants was 29 billion. Wow. So you look at this, and let's say you have a child who is, let's say 8 now. In 10, let's say 10. Within 10 years, that child is going to a college. If you did not complete the census and you did not put that you had a 10-year-old child in your home, 10 years from now, you're looking for funds for that child to actually be able to apply. Well, we didn't get enough money because we didn't know that child was in existence. Wow. Temporary assistance for needy families, Section 8 housing vouchers, Title I, Pell Grant, special. It just goes on and on. The state of California receives an exceedingly large amount of money coming from the federal government based on the census. And also I wanted to point out, because this issue has constantly been raised in regards to immigration. There's a title in the census called Title 13, which is the Privacy Act. So every single census employees, from myself on up, down, to the enumerators, I actually, for the first time in my life, had to take a lifetime oath. I had to literally, wow. I had to take an oath, and I didn't even know I had to do it. And I'm sitting there like, what's going on? And they're like, you have to take an oath. For us to hire you, this is at the information session, for us to say you are hired, you have to take this oath. And the oath basically says that I cannot, not only during the time I work with the census, but for the rest of my life.
Wow. For your lifetime.
It's a lifetime oath that if I reveal anything about anyone, then I will 5 years in prison or $250,000 in fines.
And just so I can ask you this question, and a lot of people will feel like their privacy, this is not shared with your landlord. It's not shared publicly, like she said. They're not
even shared within the government. It's not anyone can ask, but under the title, which is a Title 13, the census cannot provide. So you can keep coming and you can ask and you can ask, but the census cannot provide because it is a law. And so people get scared because they hear it, and some of that may be scare tactics out there, but people can't let that prevent them from completing the census, because that's all it is implementing fear, because nothing cannot be revealed. So if if a person is, and I understand the fear, but really they have to go to facts.
That's right. That's right. Okay. All right. Well, that gave a lot of information that I think the viewers will, felt they got a lot more information. We do have a Kitchen Talk guest that made a comment. Lucy. Hi, Lucy.
Hi, Lucy.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for joining. Very informative, she says. Thank you. It is. And we definitely wanted to do this show because a lot of people do not understand what the census is all about. Those of you who are watching live, tell your friends, tell your family. This will go video replay after the show, so they can watch it over and over. If they have any questions, like I said, the information is on the screen for the national number. The same things that she's talking about in terms of the funding and what it will do will cover every state. So we're only specifically talking about Los Angeles County, Pasadena, San Gabriel Valley, but the census it's all across this country. So it's very important that we want people to understand this. Also, Pat, the census determines how many seats your state will get in the U.S. House of Representatives. How serious is that?
That's very serious. And I also wanted to, because I didn't give this information, in addition, I mentioned the different ways that people can respond, and you gratefully put the local number and the national number, but I wanted to make sure I gave the website so that people can respond. You go to 2020census.gov. Simple as that. 2020census.gov, and there are you go to the respond. When you get on there, there's a tab that says respond. You go to that tab, and you're able to respond in 12 different languages. So if you look on the very top, you just pick the language that is that you feel more comfortable in responding, and you can respond to the census. In addition, I also wanted to point out something before we move forward, because this is very critical. In that, on 2020census.gov, there is a tab you can go on that says response rates. And this is where my partners, such as Leanne, and I have hundreds of them across the San Gabriel Valley, you can actually punch in your state, you can punch in your county, and you could punch in your census tract. And in that, you're going to be able to see where your area falls in response to live response. So the first time in 2020 census, a couple of things happened. First time that you're able to respond to the census online and immediately, get your information in. The second thing is it's the first time that they're actually showing the live response rates. So you're able to go online, and this is open to anyone. Yes, the start here is for the actual. If you click on the start here, that will take you to the response page. Exactly. And you will see the 12 languages that you're able to actually complete the census in. So there, again, 2020census.gov, and you're able to do that. You're also able to, online, you're also able to, look at where your community is in response to the census. For the San Gabriel Valley, we're doing good, but there's certain census tracts which are in low income areas, hard to count areas that have predominantly Black and brown people. Those areas are not responding as highly, and that's why people like you and I'm working with many cities, many nonprofits who are actually in the community already, and they're able to get to their constituents.
Wow.
So yes.
Okay. That's great information. And again, everybody, go to 2020census.gov. It's only 10 questions, and it does not take that long. And we're going to show another video from the 2020 census about the enumerators and a little bit more about the 2020 census. We'll come back and talk about it on the other side.
It's rough out there. People are looking for change, for answers. One answer is at your fingertips, the 2020 census. Census takers will be visiting households to make sure we are counted, because an undercounted community could miss out on billions of funding for schools, healthcare, and job assistance each year for the next 10 years. Too much is at stake. Respond online today.
Shape your future. Start here at 2020census.gov.
All right. So, that actually shares a lot of information as well.
And also, if you want, I can kind of go over a little bit about the questions, because that's one of the things that people, before they, some people, before they even go on, they're kind of nervous about what the questions are. But they're literally only nine questions, on there. And basically, you have one person. If that individual will be the person, like in my household, I was a person that completed the census for the entire house. So you have my husband, myself, my daughter, and my son-in-law. So they ask you the 9 questions. First of all, they're going to ask you the number of people in your household. So that means everybody who is in your household on April 1st, if you had a cousin who was staying with you, because, for some reason they moved to California and moved to wherever you are and is going to be staying with you, that person needed to be counted. They ask you things like, in addition to that, the additional people in the house. They ask you that whether the place you live is a house, an apartment, a mobile home, and they ask you for a telephone number. That's about the only, personal information. And they ask you that number because just in case you didn't answer something or there is a question, they will call you. There is no question on the census about citizenship. There's none of that. And they ask you for the first and last name of the individuals, male or female. They ask you the age. They then asked about the race, and they ask you whether you're Hispanic, or Latino or of Hispanic origin. And then they ask you about, in addition to that, they ask you specifically about your race. So there's a bunch of different choices. It's all about what you identify as, and which is, really, really important, even within the African American community, to actually, first of all, complete the census, and whatever that individual identifies as, then that individual needs to put it on the census. The reason why, for me personally, even beyond the census, I do a lot of work as volunteer in health related to African Americans. And if you look at the data, we are becoming a smaller and smaller number within the state of California, within Los Angeles County, within the San Gabriel Valley, et cetera, et cetera. And that plays an important fact because, in sometimes if I'm in a meeting and I'm asking, like, how is, let's just say, health? We know that health is the COVID, and everything else is affecting African Americans more. But with the number, the money tends to go to the larger population. So if we are here, we need to make sure that we're counted. This is an opportunity. When the census first started, we weren't even counted. There were years that the in earlier years, in like the 17 and 1800s, where you didn't even get to count yourself. You didn't even get to exactly. And
You weren't even a number.
exactly.
Yeah.
And another person decided who you are and what your race was. So there's two things. I mean, many things. But first of all, we have an opportunity to count ourselves. Then we have an opportunity to for me as an African American, let people know I am African.
That's right.
American, and I'm here in the United States. So
right.
And again, the rest of the questions are basically simple.
And Pat, I've heard, some people say, I don't know why they ask if I'm African American or Black. Why do they need to know that? And a lot of times they take offense to that because it feels like if you say that, they're not going to give you stuff. You know what I mean?
Right. And it has nothing to do with that. A lot of times the census data. So let's tell you the census data. And this is on a personal level that I didn't even know before I started working for the census. I always knew about census data just due to working in the nonprofit. But let's say as African American, I was saying that the numbers are small. The census data as far as race is used for many different things. It's used for legal issues. It's used to, let's say, to provide funding, let's say to racial issues that are going on. It's used for, let's say, nonprofits and hospitals to decide, that's a small number, where they're going to provide services. So there's a lot of African Americans in one area, and let's say COVID, and a lot of African Americans, and let's say we know that African Americans are faring worse in COVID, then funding can go to that, and that's just one way. But if it's like, okay, well, in this community, and this is my version, not census, in this community we have 10 African Americans, but over here we have 500, then the services can go where needed based on the need of that particular race. And that's to me the easiest way to actually, they're not going to do anything with it in a negative way. It's to help support that particular race.
That's right. Okay. All right. Well, I think we've explained a lot. We want to thank everybody that's been watching Kitchen Talk. If you have any comments out there, this is a live interactive show. I know I don't get a lot of people to jump on right away because 10 o'clock in the morning, a lot of times we get a lot of video replay response. But in any case, we want to make sure that this information is out there because we are set to, census is going to end September 30th. So that is why they are making this push. That's why on all my shows, I try to promote the 2020 census to make sure that people go online, 2020census.gov. If you're watching right now, just I don't even mind if you stop watching the show to do that today, because you can always come back and watch this. To go online and do that, because 10 years from now, we don't want people to say, where's the senior centers? Where's the activities for the kids? Oh, these parks are not, they're horrible. Okay.
Yes.
And, if we all were counted, then we would expect for those funds to be applied to those things.
And also, Leanne, you had mentioned earlier in regards to the congressional seating.
Yes.
That's important. We're coming up right after the census. We're coming up with the voting.
Yes.
So, and the census count represents the number of congressional seats. So that's the bottom line.
Right. And that's important too. So a lot of people don't understand that. Right now, we need all the help we can get to get the right people in these seats, you guys. November 3rd is, to me, like you said, this is not the census talking. This is, to me, it's probably one of the most important times to vote than I can remember in my lifetime to this point. And we're not just looking at the presidential seat, you all. We're looking at the Senate, the Congress, all of those things, our local mayors, our judges. We have to get involved because all of this, the census count, what type of funding you're going to get, it all works together, So we need to make sure that you go online, be counted on the Census Bureau. And Pat, we're going to take another quick break because we brought it about voting, and then we'll have a word from our sponsor, and then we'll come right back.
Sure.
Okay? All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. So, we want to thank Pat Tucker for coming on the show. Again, she's going to be back on the 24th of September, which is a couple of weeks from now. And we're going to talk some more about it because, like I said, the census is ending September 30th. And we're really encouraging everyone to please register to vote. Get on that census website. If an enumerator comes to your home, it's very short questions that they're going to ask. Please participate in that. And as I stated earlier, that we are coming up in the November election, and we're having voting coming up in 53 days, everybody. I think my part as doing Kitchen Talk, this is an interactive show. This show was set up because of COVID to give people information. It is the new norm about real estate, finance, lifestyle, and more. All of this is entwined into this show, and I always try to promote positive things. So we're going to talk a little bit about the voting for the 2020 election. We have 53 days, 14 hours, 20 minutes, and 35 seconds. This is serious, everybody. If you have not registered to vote, you can go to vote.org. There's a lot of different sites this is a nonpartisan website. You can check where your precinct is. You can request your ballot, and the issue of the mailing in your ballot. We're hoping to have someone on the show in a couple of weeks to talk about what you need to do with your absentee. We have some issues, as we all know, with the mailing system, but we want to get our vote in. So we're going to talk about that. But we want to encourage everyone to register, you guys. This is going to be a serious year of voting in. So we got a lot of stuff going on in this country. So again, we want to encourage you to visit vote.org and make your vote count. Vote counts. If your vote doesn't count, you don't have a voice. Okay. All right. And next we have coming up, we have our sponsor, which is going to be Bell Home Care Incorporated, California home care provider, assistance with activities of daily living. With our gentle touch, we will care for you with all our hearts. Bell Home Care Incorporated, located in Pasadena, 626-541-6851. Okay, so we're gonna bring Pat back on. Hey, Pat. Okay, and we're gonna play the next one. I think I have one. It's just the Census Bureau, but it also, each of the Census Bureau videos talk about what it means, what the purpose is, but they have their own way of expressing them. And because this is an African American segment, we are playing those videos. But we're going to show another one, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about your position there and what it looks like for 10 years from now. Okay. All right.
Why should I care about the 2020 census?
Every 10 years, the census counts everyone living in the U.S.
Count everyone living with you.
Even kids!
Our numbers help shape funding and services.
For all these things.
That's a lot of stuff.
Your responses are safe and secure.
No matter who you are or where you're from.
We have reasons to care. Shape your future. Start here at 2020census.gov.
Okay, Pat, we're back. Again, that's just another video of the 2020 census. Telling everybody exactly, hey, it's for everybody. It's, we're talking about African Americans because we are in need of our own community of things that we need. There are other cultures that might have things that they need in their community, but we're so intertwined.
Right.
We all share the same things. We all have some of the same issues. So it's an everybody issue, So tell us a little bit about your position. And, the 2020 census is every 10 years. The enumerators that are going around, they're hired by the 2020 census. These jobs will be available the next time it comes around.
Yes.
Right.
So it was unique, because honestly, I think this is why I love your show, and I just love being a partnership specialist, because in addition to the census, I get to learn more about what's going on in the community. So I was actually recruited, and unbeknownst to me, I was at an event in Monrovia. And at the event, I just kept seeing, it was a table, which I totally ignored, to be honest. And the guy just kept staring at me. And I'm like, then I went over, and then he kind of called me over, and I went over, and he said, are you interested in working with the census? I'm like, what? And then he said, well, there are positions, different positions, but the one that I'm recruiting for is as a partnership specialist. So that's what I am. I am a partnership specialist for the United States Census Bureau. And I thank God for that man, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here. One of the things that I've known always is that, within the African American community, we sometimes hear about things very late after it's done. And when I got hired from the census, it was when I officially came on board, it was in November. And I was hired because as a partnership specialist, one of your primary role is to be out there in the community and to also gain relationships with other people in other organizations, organizations within the community, which will help spread the word. So in the census, there are populations, which I mentioned before, which are deemed hard to count. These are in general people of color, people who generally don't participate in the census in general. So, children between the ages of 0 and 5, seniors, citizens, the LGBTQ community, renters, students between the ages of 18 and 24. So these are traditionally, and there are more persons with disabilities. There are more, but generally those are the individuals that are undercounted. So my job is to go out into the community and partner with organizations that are on the ground and have an impact in the community, so I can help them to help get their community counted. So I work very closely within the city of Pasadena with the city of Pasadena's city clerk. I work with the NAACP. I work with just numerous churches in the area, and my territory goes from actually kind of like Pasadena all the way east. Because I specialize in predominantly working within the African American community, my territory then extends to the entire Southern California area. So next census, and when I did get to the job, I did go on Facebook and I started telling everyone that these jobs are available. I've worked very closely with the Pasadena area census office to actually try to recruit African Americans within going to different events. So the next census, I'm on a path, a mission, because census starts to hire about a year prior, or even if I don't go back, my goal is to get as many partnership specialists who represent the communities to at least submit an application, for the job. So that's my job.
Okay, I know we have 10 years out, but how would one be able to apply for a position like yours or for an enumerator?
Well, so the the enumerators, it's all online. So if you go to that same 2020 census.gov, you just go to the job section. That number, the 626-314-8635 number is also goes to the Pasadena area census office. You can call them. We're heading close to the end. During COVID, it really made a tremendous impact. I mean, a tremendous impact in the outreach efforts, because we were closed down in LA County for just months and months and months, so that was even why the partners were even more important, because people like you were still doing your show, and you were still telling people to actually go online and complete it. So even though we couldn't go out and have events, people could still. So it just happened. This year in 2020, when it went online for the first time, was a huge blessing, because people were able to still complete the census. So I would say one of the best ways that I think, there's a website called usajobs.gov. And I'm not sure how many people know about it, but it is a resource for government jobs. The other thing I want to really stress, since I have this time, and this is not this is part of my census talk, but not part of my census talk. But the other thing is that don't be afraid to take a temporary job. This is not a permanent job, but this is a very well-paying temporary job. And not only that, but I have technically, for these last 10 months or so, I've worked for the federal government at a high level. Do you know what that's, if I wanted, but if I wanted to then go on and find another job, it's going to be much easier. I used to also work for LA County in the voter registration, doing video for a couple of years. Again, that was a temporary job. And what I noticed, I was literally one of the few, I was the only one, I think, within a certain division. Oh, no, it was like two of us in a certain division that did video. But what I found in listening, I always listen to what everyone is talking about. People use these temporary jobs to then further their career within the federal government. So I'm sitting there and I'm listening to these people talk, and they're like, they took this job because now they have experience in that job, but they've also worked for, let's say, the county or the federal government. They can then take that, and it's going to be much easier to get in once you're in. Can maneuver through the jobs versus being on the outside. So I just want to encourage people, whether it's a census or other jobs, don't be afraid to take temporary jobs through the federal government. I know that even within the county, I'm sure that they're hiring now, and just go on usajobs.gov, and just don't be afraid to take these temporary jobs.
That's great. That's great information. That really is. You have done a excellent job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You've done an excellent job. I mean, I get emails almost every day from you, updating me on, and I'm just little more so of the team, but you updating me on what's going on, and we're short in this part of town, and we need to, just really get out there, push, tell somebody, do this, do that. So you've done a fantastic job. Like you said, we go way back. You've worked with Pasadena in a lot of different capacities, and you've done a great job. So
thank you.
I know it's big, big, big things ahead for you. I want to talk about what your plans are after the census, but we have one question also from Lucy. She says, is there an I've been counted Facebook pin?
Lucy, I wish there was, but there is not. But you know what? I'm unfortunately there isn't. But the city of Pasadena, I'm not sure if you live in the city, but most what has happened and how this has worked with various cities, whether it's Pasadena, Monrovia, all the cities and various nonprofits have created their own, let's quote, swag items. So, but that was not available for the 2020 census. Hopefully it will be for the 2030 census. I'm going to make sure that in my report today, I put that someone asked for a I've counted pin.
Yeah, great.
We do have social media I've counted. So there's a census Facebook page, you know, that you can get. I can also send to Leanne some of the social media tags, which you can use as an individual, that basically tells your Facebook friends that you have been counted. So I will make sure that I send that to you. You're welcome.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you for watching. Okay, Pat. Well, you know, we talked about maybe doing a 30-minute show, but hey, we're almost on that hour. How about that?
My gosh.
So let's do this. Let's talk about what your plans are after census when you come back.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
We can do that. We can do that. All right. Well, Pat Tucker, you know what? Thank you so much for coming on the show. This is part one, everybody, because we are on the push to get everyone counted for this 2020 census. It's only 10 years, every 10 years. And if you joined in on this show, I mean, you should have gotten what is the census and what the census is really all about. Okay, so, and Pat laid it out for you. She will be back, I think on the 24th of September. That is a Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. It will be a live show. You can again visit us on Facebook Live or YouTube under Kitchen Talk with Leanne. And I want to get a report when she comes back to say, hey, Leanne, we had a sudden spike.
Yes.
We had a sudden spike. So I know that the Kitchen Talk fans reached out and actually got people to sign up. So, Patty, thank you for coming on. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. And you stay safe. I know you're wearing your mask.
Yes.
God bless you in your endeavors and everything. We'll talk.
Thank you so much. Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot, Pat. All right, everybody. That has been a wonderful segment of the 2020 census, how important it is to register. And we're going to also add on about voting in the November election, November 3rd. So we are encouraging everyone to be counted on this 2020 census and also to be counted with your vote. If you do not vote, you do not have a voice. And we all should have a voice about a lot of things that's going on in our community and also in our country. So in order for us to participate in change, we have to vote. Okay. I want to thank everybody for joining Kitchen Talk today. And we will see you next week. And be safe.